Well, welcome to another episode of the Insert SEO podcast, where we cut into more SEO insights than an overzealous brain surgeon. Today, joining us is the world-renowned, the famous Łukasz Zalesny, who comes on to discuss why organic search is stronger than ever. Hear that SERP features, organically building your brand, and what still works on social media without you having to pay for it. I am your host, Morty Oberstein, and I am joined by the reliably reliable, the sensibly sensible Kim Ragones.
Good morning, Morty. How are you today?
I'm okay. How are you?
Great. Better than ever.
We have a guest today on the show who's not talking.
Right.
Kim's daughter is in studio because she's sick.
My secretary.
It could be your secretary because she's sick.
Yes.
Get it? What a great joke. Before we continue, let me remind you that we put out a new episode of the Insert SEO podcast each and every Tuesday. You can find it on the Rank Ranger blog. You can find it on SoundCloud. You can find it on Stitcher, on Spotify. And, of course, you can subscribe on iTunes. Please subscribe on iTunes. Thank you. Okay. Well, before we get into all things organic, into the state of all things organic with Łukasz Zalesny, and in light of the recent talk about the rank brain and neural matching and so forth, let's take a look at how it all impacts keyword research as we go in-house for the second week in a row. Okay, I want to sort of set the record straight here. Google's AI and machine learning, whatever you want to call it, it's more machine learning than AI, whatever, okay, go well beyond rank brain. It's a drum I have been banging on for a while now. It also goes beyond neural matching. How do I know? Well, because Danny Sullivan talked about topic layers when he announced some of the 20th anniversary updates a few months ago. I personally think there's more than these three, just these three.
And why so?
Because it's so hard to pinpoint, because it's so hard to see each element at work. In other words, everything is so nuanced. It's beyond nuance. The way Google understands intent seems so diverse, so nuanced, so dependent on the circumstance. The nature of the query, the nature of the language used, the nature of the entity, and so forth, that there seems to be a whole wide array of AI elements at play. And that rhymes. I just made that up. That's awesome. Okay. Also, I'm a poet. You know that?
No.
Right. Yeah, me neither. Also, I used to write poetry, actually.
Really?
Yeah, for real.
So bring it next time.
No,
on the show.
that's Morty time. Also, when was the last time Google showed you their entire hand? Okay, so if they're admitting there are these three elements, there's probably 300 we don't know about.
You're talking poker.
I'm talking Google poker. All right. So you're probably wondering how all this relates to keyword research.
How did you know that?
Because I wrote into the script.
Uh-huh.
Right.
That will do it.
That'll do it. I just broke the fourth wall. Okay. Here we go. So from time immemorial, which I always mess that word up, but I got it right, okay? Keyword research has been about what? About finding the most advantageous keyword from the competitive perspective, from the maximum search volume perspective. Everyone's been on the hunt for high search volume keywords when and where you could, of course, compete. However, with the advent of search as a journey, or Google being a discovery engine, whatever in the world you want to call it, however you want to phrase it, okay, playing the keyword search volume game is like trying to catch a whale with a string. Like a thin string, not a thick string. That would be a rope already.
With a string.
And is that personal experience from Sweden? No. You don't hunt, wait.
We don't do that.
You don't hunt whales? You're not, well, okay, that's good, because that's a bad thing to do. Save the whales.
Yeah,
that was a big thing when I was growing up. Save the whales. Star Trek 4. Right. Mm-hmm. Okay. Where was I? Okay. So you have this whole thing of search journey, right? Search discovery. Okay, what I'm focusing on in this particular moment are the topic layers that I referenced a few moments ago. Okay, Google talked about this and all the rest that goes into Google understanding who and what an entity is on a new qualitative level, as well as knowing what fits and what doesn't fit within the concept, because that changes everything. Notice the topic layers, how Google's about understanding an entity, how Google goes about deciphering what relates to, what doesn't relate to an entity via the topic layer, and perhaps many undisclosed AI elements changes everything. Okay, we as SEOs, okay, we look at search very monolithically. Okay, and that's starting to change a bit, which is good, but we're not there yet. What do I mean by this? Okay, so we see a user and a search. We see the same user and the next search. We see the same user and the next search. We see the same user and
the next search.
And the next search. You get the point.
Yes.
I could go on. Should I? No, probably not a good idea. No? You sure?
Yes.
Okay, that's it. Final answer.
That's it.
Okay. I won't go. And they see the user and the next search. I did it anyway. Okay, sorry. I couldn't help myself. Okay, Google does not look at search this way. And Google says that users view search almost like a pastime in a way, as something to do, as something to become engrossed in.
I don't know what you mean.
Yes, you do. You do. Okay, have you ever just sat down with nothing better to do, or perhaps something better to do that you want to escape from?
There's always something to do.
That's right.
Laundry.
That you want to escape from.
Yes.
Right, I get that. I'm a laundry guy at home. I feel you. I don't like doing laundry. But it's better than washing dishes. That's my wife. That's our split.
Good deal.
Yeah, it's a good deal. I hate doing dishes. Anyway, okay. So you sit down. You have nothing better to do. You do one search after the next search after the next search. You go and look at this. You go back and look at that. You go and look at this because you're just trying to kill time, or you get clued into something. You get hung up on something. You find something really, really interesting. You just keep going and going and going with more and more searches. That ever happen to you?
Well, I don't search so much on Google per se, mostly on Amazon or YouTube. So I guess I don't get
You don't get the whole
manipulated journey the same way.
But no, YouTube is exactly what I'm talking about. Actually, that's great. Actually, okay. You know, you watch a video on YouTube and you watch the next one, the next one, and the next one. You're just like stuck in right. 3 hours pass by. You know what happened? Where are my kids? And why is a house on fire? Right, literally.
Almost.
Or almost, right?
But
okay.
also on Amazon.
Right, same thing, right? You just keep going. Okay, that's exactly what I'm talking about, but an actual Google search. Okay,
Yes.
so search is not monolithic. Okay, I would say, and I very much believe that Google agrees. Okay, that search is more aligned to what I just described, to what you may more think about as being a YouTube search. Okay, than it is about isolated search events. Okay, so if we go with this for a second, okay, then Google offering you what you want for a specific search without trying to guide you to the next logical search, or that offering a segue to continue down to another search path, or if you want to call it, that would be silly if you didn't do that. Totally unaligned to how the user operates, okay, to what the user latently expects. So what does Google do? Search as a journey, okay? They use all sorts of bag of tricks. I don't mean it in a bad way, okay? To push content avenues in front of your eyes, okay, in front of the user, so as to make, and okay, this just makes so much sense, okay? Google sees search as being this dynamic, involved process, then it's going to want to offer you dynamic and involved search options, okay? Thus, okay, now, okay, wait a second. Okay, so now, okay, now here you are basing your content generation off keyword research that's totally focused on high volume, low competitive keywords. Okay, that's monolithic, my friend. That is not how Google sees search. It's not how Google's about content placement on the SERP. It's about as relevant as stuffing keywords. To be very, very hyperbolic about it, I know. I'm trying to get your attention to make a point. Okay, thus, the keyword research process should delve into the full spectrum of whatever topic you're dealing with, much the way that Google does when showing results on the SERP. It's only logical. Okay. In the post we just put out on the Rank Ranger blog, which I'm plugging, that's fine, the example I used was for a keyword related to mutual funds. Okay, so now you could do your normal keyword research, and you would find all sorts of high volume, high traffic volume keywords related to mutual funds and create a super high volume keyword list of super traffic deliverers related to mutual funds. Or you could do research by using a tool like Rank Ranger's keyword research suite, cough, cough, to pull in keywords from features like the PAA box, people also ask box, related searches, in order to get a broader and more holistic view of the topic. Okay, in the case of mutual funds, which is what I cough, which is what I was searching for when I did my post. That meant subtopics related to mutual funds, like are mutual funds a safe investment? Are they not a safe investment? How lucrative are mutual funds? What are the tax implications of mutual funds? Which, by the way, was a big question that people have, which I never would have guessed. It's true.
Yeah,
people want to know about their taxes. Okay, if you were to go just high search volume, what would happen? You might entirely focus on one of those topics and totally ignore the other two, which is the problem. Okay, you would miss out on any of the content exploration opportunities Google's putting in front of the user. In other words, you will not pass go, you will not collect $200 because you will not continue on the user's search journey. Keyword research for 2019, there it is, that you have it. See the full post on the Rank Ranger blog by yours truly. I'm done.
Okay, so now there's a perfect time to announce the share of your SEO tip of the week. No?
Yeah. Let's do it, okay? By the way, in words of the great Arnold Horshack from Mr. Carter, right you are, Miss Ragones. I'm not going
Thank
to do the
you.
ooh thing. Most of you have no idea what I'm talking about. Google, welcome back, Otter. Okay.
So, what is the most important piece of keyword research advice 2019?
Yep. Give us one juicy tip, one piece of advice that makes all the difference for keyword research in 2019. We will share your tip of the week, your SEO tip of the week on Twitter. We'll put it on LinkedIn. We'll put it out here. We'll put it out there. But it will also be available for you on the Rank Ranger blog that hosts this podcast. And there will be a Google form there where you can submit your answer in case you want to submit it anonymously. You could do that. Huh? Yeah, it sounds like a good deal. Go for it. We would appreciate it very, very much. By the way, before we go on, let's take a look back at last week's SEO tip share. Please, see what you guys shared with us. But what was the question? If you could remind us, please, Kim.
Sure, since you said please.
I always say please.
Yes.
Thank you.
Last week,
You're welcome.
you shared your tips on how to best deal with a Google update hit.
Thank you.
Most welcome.
So again, last week I asked you, how do you deal with Google Update? How do you deal with getting hit? A lot of great tips from across the social media universe. Some anonymous tips on the survey form, which again is available to you. Let's point out one from Tim O'Keefe on Twitter. It's TIMOKEEFE. Tim O'Keefe on Twitter. He said, quote, "Follow fundamentals. If you get hammered, then adjust. Sometimes it might be time for a new URL and IP." It's a good point, right? Stick to fundamentals, track yourself wisely. I guess there are times where you would have to, go with a new URL. That would, I saw, okay, the reason I'm bringing this up is because I saw a few people recommend this sort of action. There are going to be times that, yes, that makes sense, but I would be very, very cautious about advising you to do so. There's a ton of literature on all the various different news websites about this topic. I would suggest you go research it, see what Google has said about this in the past before you do anything drastic. This is Morty taking responsibility of some of the comments that have been out there and telling you that's true, that there might be a time and place for that, but be cautious. Okay, I'm done. Onwards. To infinity and beyond. We're moving on. By the way, did you know that Toy Story 4 is coming out?
I do now, but more importantly, there's a Frozen 2 coming.
Yeah, I never grew up with Frozen. It's beyond my kids are not interested in Frozen. I have boys, and it wasn't their thing. Like, one of them liked it. He was okay. Like, he could live with it, live without it.
No, it's the best movie in the world.
Toy Story is the best movie in the world.
No.
No, that's ridiculous.
Okay.
That doesn't make it.
So you'll
Fine.
watch Toy Story 2?
We'll watch
Frozen
it.
2.
No, I'm gonna watch Toy Story 4 because it's older. They're up to 4 already.
Okay.
Like when I was already an older kid,
I've
it came
seen
out.
the first 3.
They're amazing. Come on. All right. Really, onwards. SEO and all-around digital marketing expert Lucas Lesney spoke with us about the health of all things organic search, organic brand building, organic search media, organic apples. Okay, not organic apples. That was a lame joke. Here it is. Cut 1. You are listening to another In Search SEO podcast interview. Joining us today, well, what can I say? What can't I say? Actually, from China to England, he is an international keynote speaker par excellence with 15 years experience as an independent SEO and digital marketing consultant. He is a world-renowned Lukasz Zelezny, and he is here to talk about the health of all things organic on the web. Welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Hi, thank you for having me. What an energized introduction. Never had something like that.
I try. It's early in the morning. I got to get pepped up. So before we get going with everything, you travel all over the world. You speak at all sorts of conferences and all sorts of events. And the one common thing I see is the vest. You always wear a vest.
No vest, no fun.
No vest, no fun.
That's my, this is my trademark. I even bought in India, where I am right now, this Nehru jacket. I just need to see how it will go with my blazer. But waistcoat is like a must.
Oh, it stands out and it's awesome. Okay.
Thank you.
No, thank you. All right, let's dive into the health of all things organic. Let's kick it off with organic search. So let me just ask you directly. Is organic search dying? Obviously, it's not dead, but in your opinion, with Google increasingly targeting users with all sorts of special SERP features and all sorts of filters within the SERP features, where do things stand with organic search?
I think I would rather say that Google is dying, trying to push people into these things. Search is absolutely fine. You know, SEO is like Rolling Stones. Rolling Stones always saying that this is the last concert and there will be another five and they will be also last. So this year is the last year of SEO and there will be another five and they are also the last one, you know. I think we need to understand one fundamental thing. As long as people will be searching the way they do, you know, the concept of search, and the concept of search is way longer, exist way longer than internet and so on. People were searching way before that in the phone books and, you know, and even before and so on and so on. Then the organic search is absolutely safe. If Google will start to be too pushy with all that stuff around, people just starting to fly away to other search engines, which is a natural process and it's already happening.
Do you think it's already happening?
Of course, of course. Otherwise, DuckDuckGo wouldn't be growing that fast. And even Bing, that you know, some people may laugh right now. I don't consider Bing that bad. I think they are doing good stuff, and I would always recommend people to use Bing Webmaster Tool. It's yet another free tool which can give you a chunk of very high quality data.
Yeah, for sure. DuckDuckGo over the last 2-3 months, for sure. Just it's been all over the news. All sorts of data coming out that their search numbers are jumping up. In the meantime, though, what can search marketers do in order to stay afloat with Google using so many SERP features?
Well, I think there is lots of opportunities still, and one of these opportunities featured snippets. So not these typical snippets we know that we can encode, and then if Google likes this code or likes the website, then we'll accept the stars and breadcrumbs and I don't know, product list and so on. I'm talking about featured snippet that Google purely on own judgment is deciding to show or not to show. I'm a big fan, and I remember when I was working in USwitch, when I noticed that, I was thinking how I can get this on scale, and I started hiring someone who will be doing only this and so on and so on and so on. Then we realized that there is one competitor in a very competitive market, UK price comparison website, that started also proactively trying to place their websites, their pages into the featured snippet. So this is just one example, and I think there is more and more examples that I've never been that busy. You know, you cannot imagine. I've never been that busy. I have lots of inquiries where I just need to say no because you know, amount of work, amount of resources that is needed in some cases is not worth. I'm saying like go for Facebook advertising, go for PPC. But on the other side, you know, I'm working with sometimes a very small but very niche oriented business, and that works so well. And these people are so excited, you know.
Do you think, though, to harp back on feature snippets for a moment, so I have this theory, and you can tell me if I'm right, you can tell me if I'm wrong, I won't be offended, that going forward, say a year from now, 2 years from now, whatever it is, that feature snippets won't be the big win that we think they are now. Because it seems that, and we've seen this before, that Google has started using headings, like direct answer headings that seem to mirror direct answers within the feature snippet. That as time goes on, that large snippet of content that we get will become smaller and smaller, and then what you'll get instead are smaller, shorter snippets that more directly answer. They still come from a website, or there's still a URL there, but they're much smaller snippets. They're much more aligned to the actual query. And then there's no need for a user to go on and click that URL. Do you see that happening? Is that not going to happen? What are your thoughts?
I think it's an element of bigger problem. It's a usage of third-party content, often without the consent, as a part of SERP. And I recently been reading that lots of people raise these concerns, especially, let's step back from feature snippet, the whole concept of AMPs, you know, that you're technically serving content from Google Cache. And there is no more, like, your server can be down and your website is achievable because it's been completely copied as a snapshot to Google infrastructure. So I think we will see. Featured snippet, if they will disappear, there will be something new. We may not know yet, but you see, if you will go back in your memory into 2009, and you will compare what you was looking at those days. And I know that there was no, many things didn't exist and they exist right now. But fundamentally, was this really that different? I
Right.
think it didn't change that much.
Right. Yeah, I only asked because now it seems that there's I know Cindy Crum's theory about Fraggles, where they're able to pull out and jump you down and pull out, instead of you looking at an actual piece of larger content, they're able to pull out smaller snippets of content. They're able to jump down to a page like they are. I don't remember if you saw about a month ago, there was a test where Google, for AMP URLs in the feature snippet, you jump to the page and it scrolls you down to the actual snippet of content on the page. It seems that they're trying to advance a little bit, but yeah, you're probably right. And feature snippets are probably around here for a long time. Let me jump to brand for a second.
Yeah.
So brand reputation, brand authority, it's more important than ever, just as it's not a cliche. I mean, it is a cliche, but I don't mean it as a cliche. With Google focusing more on entities, so the brand's authoritativeness, the brand's authority becomes more and more into focus. That said, can the brand build awareness and authority organically these days, or can it not do so?
I think brand is very important, and my short answer is absolutely yes. I wouldn't come to any customer and say, like, you know what, brand keywords, this is not my cup of tea. I will be only pushing on generic and pushing traffic on generic. Google My Business is an absolutely fantastic tool, and this is part of the strategy I'm using every day. I'm also using brand trackers. My name and surname is quite, I'm always saying, like, when you have a Polish name, Czech surname, and you're living in London, what could go wrong? Everyone is like misspelling this, but it's a blessing when you realize that, first of all, there is not many people named like that, and second, there are brand trackers. So I'm using these brand trackers, and I'm tracking where are mentions, and I'm also suggesting this to customers, and we're using this as a part of our linking strategy. So we're trying to pivot a bit the whole concept of brand and brand awareness into our little SEO world, but I would never say that brand is not important, and so on and so on.
Right. On that note, do you think that it's getting harder for brands to build organic relationships with other influencers, with other people out in the industry? Is there a greater focus on creating paid connections? And does that mean that the grassroots connections that brands used to make are sort of fading away?
I think it's very gray area, because we still need to remember about Google TOS, and terms of service are saying clearly that, what you can, what you cannot. Pretty much you cannot do anything these days. Everything is like considered to be like, manipulative tactics.
Right.
But because I'm saying about this because you mentioned money element. So every time there is a money element, it's very, very risky situation that there can be like, and by the way, can you link to us? We're not paying for that link, we're paying for something else, but link is blah blah blah. We've been in this world. So yeah, I think I'm always will be trying to pivot brand and everything what is going around brand into my little world, but sometimes I still will be a big fan of exact match domain. And I need to tell you that I recently, that was 2 years ago, I acquired SEO.London domain, the new extension .London that Sadiq Khan introduced. I also have socialmedia.pl, which I'm quite proud of. And I can see that it's not really how the theory book is saying, that doesn't make any difference anymore, and so on and so on and so on. Frankly speaking, I feel like having a domain like cheapholidays.com, or let's say SEO.com. There is a company which has this, or even like my good friend Philly Wiese. He's very good in having this online marketing. I think it's very easy to remember, and then you can forget for a moment about all these rules and articles you was reading for last 10 years. Exact match domains doesn't work, doesn't rank that well anymore, and so on and so on. Okay, we're not talking about this at the moment. We're talking, is this easy to remember or no? Right. I think SEO.London is easy, but from the other side, some people may be a little confused about what do you mean .London? Because it's not .london.com, you mean, or what? Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's still, there is still lots of potential and value.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like something like say cheaphotels.com. I always thought forget the ranking factor, not a ranking factor using the exact match domain. But I think users feel if you're the domain cheaphotels.com, then you're the authority in all things cheaphotels.com. It sort of builds that brand association and brand authority that we're talking about. Let's hop over to social media then, since you brought it up. Organic presence on Facebook is pretty much dead, right? That aside, Facebook aside, more reliable platforms such as Twitter are become increasingly harder to accumulate momentum, being that there's such a flow of content out there. And of course, that flow of content manifests itself and expresses itself on Twitter where it's being shared. How could a marketer stay afloat on a platform like Twitter, living in an environment where there's just so much content out there?
Let me be a very cheeky right now. Marketers can survive on Twitter moving to LinkedIn. Period. Like I afraid that if you would invite me in 10 years from now, then there will be no Twitter. I don't know that. For me, this concept is dying and so on. So Facebook, I have a massive problem with how easy is this level of getting into advertising and start bombarding me with this super low quality adverts. And I need to express this because every time I'm thinking about this, I'm inside, I'm boiling. Everybody's saying like, hey, I will tell you how to do 7 figures. Oh, you only need to sign to my automated webinar. And I'm like, yet another automated webinar. That's probably 103rd today. You know what I mean? And then, and then you because they're targeting me because I'm matching the requirements or like the profile. The amount of pages I like. By the way, there is no intent on Facebook. All these adverts posted on Messenger, seriously. So that is my main problem with Facebook. I'm okay with Instagram, but then I'm going into LinkedIn and I have my peace of mind. I have there my leads. I'm meeting some people. I have a professional conversation. I know that sometimes people are there and getting to me with, hey, I'm selling blog posts, blah 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 blah. Ignore that. That's the downside, yeah. But I love LinkedIn, and it's a phenomenal platform. And they like if you really want to have a fun on LinkedIn, you should upgrade your account. And I think this is the best £20 I spend every month. It's only £4, and I don't care to have like £4 sacrifice for one LinkedIn account.
By the way,
Tell them that I said that.
It's all here. It's all being recorded. It's all here. By the way,
Yeah.
I'm with you. I hate Facebook. I barely check it. Ironically, the only thing I ever do is with Facebook if I'm researching a product. So what I'll do is I'll keep clicking on the ads and it'll bombard me with the ads, which I want to see for now, and then I don't visit for another month. I really can't stand Facebook. How do you leverage LinkedIn, by the way, content-wise? What do you find works?
I think this is another thing that makes me super excited, man. When I'm trying to be quite open. There is, like not only posts about my SEO things and so on and so on. And by the way, I am targeting rather business owners, and they are really not that keen to read about that, how to crawl a website and so on. And that's something that we can talk between me and you and so on and so on. Business owner want to have a solution, yeah.
Right.
So I'm rather sharing something like, oh, take a look, yet another website I optimized for 100% in SEMrush. Would you like to talk about this and so on and so on? But I will tell you, like, when I become a British citizen in November 2017, which I was very proud of, I posted photo on my Facebook and photo on my LinkedIn. Obviously, on LinkedIn, I got 25,000 friends, followers, whatever we want to call this. And, like, the amount of response, engagement, comments, and everything was like overwhelming. And I'm not saying like it was only nice, but it was also like kind of encouraging that this platform is so alive,
Yeah, it's funny. I started doing a video series. I retweet it out on Twitter, but I create it for LinkedIn, and I find it does much better on LinkedIn.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And video, like you said, video is it's a great medium right now on LinkedIn. Also, the fact that they are monetizing on pro accounts from one way and can make cost per click relatively high to filter out everyone who have a £10 budget and will be talking to me like stop doing marketing until you will not read that, then I'm I'm very, very grateful, because I feel like, at the end of the day, they can be a Google of social media, so they will dominate. They will absolutely dominate, because people at the end of the day want to do things in purpose. Okay, everything right now have a very short lifespan. Yeah. Snapchat, that was like such a boom, and now no one is talking about this. Even kids. Right now, here in India, there is a boom on TikTok. I'm writing article. But yeah, I was like, "What? This is like music." We are a bit too old for this. Probably like
You're
15
dating
years
me.
old. Yeah. But like I bet next year I will come here and there will be no one talking about TikTok anymore. And LinkedIn is growing and growing. And I had a couple of slides, and again, I will paraphrase this because I don't remember. I think the moment when I was doing slides, it was a couple of months ago, there was 600 million accounts, and LinkedIn estimated that there is 3 billion professionally active people, and professionally active people that probably include even like a fisherman's or rickshaw drivers or Uber drivers somewhere in the middle of nowhere in India, and they kind of want everyone to have LinkedIn account. You may say like why they would like to have. That's important. That's definitely important. Your career is what gives bread and butter to your family, and definitely,
Right. Yeah. I mean, I can go on and on and on about my frustrations with Twitter lately, and my liking towards LinkedIn, which is I wouldn't, if you would have asked me 2 years ago, I never would have said, yeah, LinkedIn is much easier for me than Twitter has become. Okay, listen, before we go, I have to do this to you. I have to ask you. I have a little bit I call optimize it or disavow it. I'm going to give you two options. Okay? Either they're really two good options and you have to choose one of these two great options and, of course, put one aside, or I'll give you two really bad options and you have to choose one really bad option. In this case, we're going to play optimize it or disavow it. Going to ask you, if you had to choose one over the other one, you could only do one. You could only focus on one. It's a zero-sum world. Organic, SEO, or PPC? Which one do you go with?
SEO.
Organic SEO. He's looking at me like, what are you asking me for, rolling his eyes at me?
Come on.
Okay, but
I would be bored. Like after 3 days, I would die probably with PPC.
You know the PPC guy saying the opposite. Oh, SEO, I would die with SEO. Give me PPC. But why do you think that PPC is not the way to go? Because there's so much talk about PPC, and I agree with you. I don't buy into it.
I will tell you why. I was thinking about this for a long time, and we had a long discussion with my other friends many years ago. I think this is 10 years from now, and we found probably the reason why SEO is so exciting and PPC is not, because SEO never been fully transparent. SEO never been given you like a handbook. It's not like you will call Google and say like, you know what, can you take a look on my account? Oh yeah, here is a bunch of other keywords. You just need to increase a little your budget. It's kind of like an RPG game. It's kind of like a journey. It's kind of like a marathon. And obviously, if you like pivots in Excel like me, if you like VLOOKUPs, then, when I started working for myself, I just realized first time after 17 years, how it is to do something, first of all, because you like, and then because the fact that it's giving you money, bread and butter, and help and makes you to support your family and so on and so on. And don't make me wrong, I was really enjoying my full-time jobs. It was an absolutely fantastic journey. I had a great team of lots of talented people. But right now, it's this moment of reconsideration request. I reconsider. Yeah, really cheap fun, but I couldn't resist.
It's okay. We accept those here. We accept them.
Yeah, and it's like, oh my god, like frankly speaking, like I was not sleeping today because Monday is my busy day and I'm always sending reports to my customers. But I was like, oh my gosh, I am very lucky because I'm in the right place in the right time, and I wish everybody to be in the right place in the right time with the right skills.
Wow. Well, we appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to join us. Again, Lucas Zalesny, a great marketer, a great speaker. Check him out. Of course, we will link to all of his content insight in our blog post that harbors this podcast. Again, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me, and lots of love to everyone who was listening to us.
And we are back to your regularly scheduled In Search SEO podcast. I was a bit surprised, by the way, at his hardline stance on Google's use of SERP features. Really interesting. By the way, really nice guy. I know I say that a lot, but it's really important for a good interview that there just be a good flow, that the person be nice, and he was great. I really enjoyed that one.
Good.
Yeah, thank you.
Nice conversation.
Just so you know, you heard some of my favorite things about LinkedIn on this past interview. Next week, we have a LinkedIn expert joining us, and you'll hear some of my not-so-favorite things about LinkedIn, i.e. it's a bit of a cold space. Of course, we talk LinkedIn from an SEO perspective, because that's what we do here on the In Search SEO podcast, but enough of that for now, because that's next week's episode. You have to tune in for next week. Right now, I'm craving some good old SEO news. Kim, please hit it with the news.
Okay, right on time. Let's see. Google has made it possible to use the AMP and mobile-friendly test tools to see how changes to the code will impact the page. Meaning, you can make a change to the code without the tool and see what the effects will be.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
Great. Simple.
Easy.
Great.
Yes. Okay. The info command that let you see the canonical URLs for a URL is going away. Instead, you will have to use the URL inspection tool. This means to see a URL's canonical URL, you will have to have verified access to it via Search Console.
Yeah, so Google said this because people are not using the info command so often. I don't know. It doesn't sound right to me, but I guess I'll take them at their word for it. But there's a good chance there's another reason behind this. Okay, onwards.
Google has added a feature that lets you see vacation rentals when looking for a hotel. The feature can be seen on mobile and is soon heading to desktop as well.
So that's an interesting move. By the way, it makes a lot of sense to do this because why not offer those vacation rentals? Because there's, Airbnb is so popular. This is not entirely new. Google was testing this for a while, and it may or may not have been more frequent depending upon the market that you were in. But now it's officially here, and again, it's coming to desktop. It might already be there by the time you hear this podcast, so check it out.
Yeah, maybe.
Yep. Okay, last item.
Last item is Google will be getting some more consistent conversion data. As of May 1st, Google Ads will offer cross-conversion to all attribution reports. Also, Google Ads Editor has replaced AdWords Editor.
Well, it's about time since AdWords has been gone for a while and that Google Ads has been around for a while. But okay, great. Thank you very much for the news, Kim.
You're most welcome, Morty.
I hope you will please do it again next week.
It's very likely.
Okay. Well, with the news being done and our time drawing near, you know what time it is again. It's time for our fun SEO send-off question. Okay. Did you know that baseball season just started?
I did not, but is that an official sign that spring is arriving?
No, it's an official sign on my house that there's going to be a war because one of my kids is a Yankee fan, one of my kids is a Met fan. And which game we're going to watch? No, what's the Mets game? Whatever, it's the whole thing. Okay, so baseball for me, I love baseball. It's just something so nostalgic. I cannot explain it. I was watching some highlights this morning. Okay, I cannot explain the feeling of just watching baseball. I know it seems like really boring.
Yes.
It's so good.
Because it is.
No, it's so good. Okay. Either way, we're not talking about baseball. You may not like baseball. You may not know what baseball even is.
I know what it is.
Okay.
That's
right.
as far as I'll take it.
Fine. What's your favorite team?
I
don't know.
I don't have what favorite team. No.
What's a team?
I know what a team is also.
No, I know what. No, and I know you know what a team means. I mean, can you give me an example of a team?
What you just said. Jets.
Jets.
Nets.
Good, close enough. Anyway,
Okay.
for those of you who are not baseball inclined, and I don't blame you, I totally get it. It's a weird thing. I just love baseball. Anyway, today we're going to ask, what sport does Google love more than any other? Please take it away, Kim.
So I'm going to go with soccer because it's very popular, international, and Google goes with the flow.
Oh, that's cool.
You?
Soccer? You mean football? I don't know what soccer is.
Soccer.
Oh, football. I'm just messing with you.
Not football.
Okay.
Soccer.
No, I mean like everyone else
Not
calls football.
American
Not American.
football.
I mean, football. It's called football. Everyone else besides Americans call it football, right?
So I guess I spent some time in America.
Yeah,
so
well.
I call it soccer.
Oh, I get it. Okay.
So there's no confusion when someone says soccer. There could
Right,
be
you can't
confusion.
say
If I
that here.
would've
You
said
have to say
football,
soccer. No one know what you're talking about if you said
Yes.
football here. No, they would. They would think you're talking about American football. Right. Makes sense. Okay. I'm going to go with curling.
Curling.
Yeah, curling. I think Google loves curling. It's unassuming in many ways. It's full of grace and hidden glory, much the way Google is all full of hidden secrets. Like curling is full of hidden stuff because no one knows about it. Okay.
I know about curling.
Well, you're from
maybe more than
Sweden.
Baseball, yes.
That's like your official sport, no? Curling?
Hockey is a
Hockey?
lot stronger.
Henrik Lundqvist, the goalie for the Rangers from Sweden.
Yeah?
Yeah.
No, there are a lot of good hockey players.
Yeah, there are a lot of hockeyers from Sweden. So it's like
Yes.
curling like the Swedish version of shuffleboard. Do you know what shuffleboard is?
No.
It's like the elderly played. My grandmother who had polio played shuffleboard. You have to slide these
no.
discs.
It's not so good for elderly people like that to maybe walk on the ice. You can obviously...
I thought everywhere in
Fun.
Sweden was ice.
No,
No. My stereotypical understanding is wrong,
I would say so.
but it's bonkers.
Wake up, Morty.
I'm trying to.
Smell the roses.
Wait. So have you played curling? We have to talk about this.
Almost.
Do you call it playing curling? Or you just call it curling?
I think playing curling.
Playing curling.
We went to this children's science museum, and they had a sports section where you could try out things like this, but it's on plastic.
Right.
That's
And curling.
the closest thing I've ever
That's cool though.
done. Real ice? No.
Huh. Ice fishing? You ever done that?
No.
They just call it fishing.
But we drive cars on the ice.
You drive cars on the ice in the winter?
It's easier to transport furniture
On the
to the islands on
ice. You're
a
being
car.
for real.
Yeah.
Car ice transport. And that'll do it for the In Search SEO podcast for this week. Tune in again next Tuesday for an all new episode of the In Search SEO podcast. I'll just say In Search SEO podcast one more time because it's in search. Because you're all in search of something.
See you next week.
Well, welcome to the In Search SEO podcast, where we dole out more SEO insights than Hollywood does terrible remakes of movies that made my childhood. Today we have Niki Mosier to get us caught up on the hidden world of local SERP features, what to consider when creating Google posts, what local features are we all forgetting about, and how do we capitalize on them, and where do we stand in regards to tracking local SERP feature progress. I am your host, Morty Oberstein, and I am joined by the efficaciously efficacious, the luminously luminous, Kim Ragones.
Good morning, Morty. It is good to see you.
Good to see you too. That was a tongue twister, that last little intro there. You know, by the way, it takes me a long time to find different adjectives every week.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm getting
sure it
I'm
does.
like getting to like the bottom of my list. I got to find a new list.
And every week you have to do better
I
than
know.
last week.
I know. And the words are getting harder to pronounce. It's
Just
not
say
good.
it really fast.
Right,
And
if
then
I say it really
nobody
fast.
will
No one
notice.
will know the difference. My wife always makes fun of me when I mispronounce a word because I like using big words sometimes. Then when I mispronounce one, she gets very, very happy.
Yes.
Yes,
I can
that's
see
how it
that.
goes. Okay, before we go any further, let me remind you, we put out a new episode of the In Search SEO podcast each and every Tuesday. You can find it on the Rank Ranger blog. You can find it on SoundCloud. You can find it on Spotify and Stitcher. And, of course, you can subscribe on iTunes, but you will not be able to find one next week. I'm going away. I'm having sort of a family reunion kind of thing. I have family coming from out of town.
Oh,
sort
that's
of,
nice.
yeah. So that's nice. I have to take off some time in order to accommodate their feelings. And to make
Enjoy.
sure, yes, and
Or
to
you can
enjoy.
invite them to be on the podcast.
That would be really interesting. We can have a therapy session on the show.
Yes.
Right, we can all air out my dirty laundry.
Good
Probably
plan.
not a good idea. So next week, we'll be back the week after. Do not worry. But next week, we will not be here. Tear shedding. Okay, moving on. So before we get into the interview with Niki Mosier, I want to talk about voice search because we all can't get enough of it, and I don't understand why. And with that is voice search's SEO impact. Kim, could you please fill in the folks at home on why I'm randomly bringing up voice search?
Sure thing, especially after you said please. So, Search Engine Land recently published an article citing a überall study that shows but 4% of all businesses are ready for voice search.
Shocking. Terrible. To quote Marlon Brando from Apocalypse Now, the horror. Okay, downright impossible. 4%? Humph. Humph.
Yeah, it's not so much.
No. I mean, we could just continue to complain how terrible the situation is, or we can ask why. It's heretical, I understand. We can ask why this is. Why in the world should a business... Let me get real heretical with it, okay? Why in the world should a business take the time, take the money to worry about voice search at this point?
Well, to show that they're on top of their game and know what's coming.
Right, that's a good reason. And because they're just caught up in the latest trends without actually thinking about, is this really applicable? Again, heresy.
Yes.
Okay, I know, I get it. It's a crazy sort of question. What's wrong with me? We all know voice search is bigger than John Lennon. For local businesses, maybe, which, by the way, is why the study that we just quoted is predominantly focused on local metrics. Because voice search, regardless of anything else, is very, very much applicable currently to local. I get it. For a local business, voice search is a big deal, 100%. But y'all do know there are more business types outside of local, right? Because there's only local exists. No. Okay? And indeed, the study mentions that enterprise companies are the least ready for voice search. And we're sitting here now in loathing judgment of these companies because they obviously have no idea what they're freaking doing. I mean, this is voice search for Pete's sake. Why are you, the multinational companies, the companies of all companies, not ready for voice search, for crying out loud? Golly gosh, gee whiz, and all other sorts of 1950s sentimental language. But let me pose a radical thought to you. These multinational companies are not dumb. And if they're not focusing on voice search, it's not because they don't know what they're doing. It's probably because doing so would be inefficient and would have no purpose at this point. Again, heretical, I understand this, but would it be okay if we explore this idea?
Go right ahead.
Okay, but give advance warning, this idea is rooted in the devil.
Why?
Yes, it's terrible. Why would a company not think voice search is important? Maybe because outside of local, which again, I think it's super important and relevant to local businesses, voice search is a novelty. Search is a need. I need search. Social media is a need. I need social media. And obviously there's a hierarchy of needs, right? I don't need search like I need air. I need social media like I need air.
Yes.
I'm up in bed at night. Everyone's sleeping. Got my Twitter on. I can't stop.
No?
No, it's an addiction. I get sweat. If I don't check Twitter often enough, I start sweating.
I think
get
it's
the
more
shakes.
important to sleep.
It's true. I'm a night owl, though.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's terrible. I'm not a morning person, and my kids wake up really early in the morning.
Those two things don't usually go together.
It's not good. Okay, but seriously, okay? Do I need a $75 device to say, hey, bozo? Which is how the device would respond to if my grandmother was the one using it, because she was a very tough cookie. So it'd be like, hey, bozo, is it raining outside? Do I really need that? By the way, do you know what the device would respond back to my grandmother?
I can't say that I do.
Okay. It would be, look out the damn window, you idiot! Because my grandmother was a tough cookie. If George Patton were a grandmother, it would be mine.
What if you don't have a window?
Look out it anyway.
Okay.
Who doesn't have a window?
If you're in a basement.
If you're in jail.
In jail.
If in jail, you have a window, no?
But maybe then the weather is not your top priority.
It could be the weather's all you have.
Yes.
Where are we going with this? I have no idea. Okay, voice devices, voice search, and the responses as they exist now outside of local is a novelty. Okay, if I'm a big time company, you know where this novelty sits on my radar?
Please tell me.
Off of it. It's off the radar for me.
So what do you mean? That voice search is a novelty? How do you back that up?
Because Google backs me up.
Oh.
To quote the end of Coming to America. Okay. First off, let's go like this. Okay. What's Google been doing with Visibly voice search? Well, it's pushed to get news publishers to get their content optimized for voice search. It's created a great new way to act as an interpreter via Google Hub, which is very cool. It's partnered with Walmart. Did you not know that? Yes, it has partnered with Walmart to go about offering a shopping experience. I could go on and on and on. And the reason why, by the way, Google's doing all these things is not, we just want to be better. Being better is, of course, better. It's always important to be better. No, okay? It's because I think Google knows it has to offer something deeper than just the weather. Look out the window. She would literally say that. I'm telling you, if she was still alive today, that's how she would use this thing. And then she would throw it out the window. It has to be, if you want voice search to be beyond a novelty, it has to become integrated into your life. And Google, I think, knows this, okay? I need it. I need it to shop. I need it to get deep answers, deep content, deep exploration. I need it to translate with. I need it so I can follow a recipe step by step with my Google Hub, which is very cool, right? I need it so I can turn the lights on and off, whatever it is, okay? As long as it's some sort of like deep level of engagement and personal integration, because then it becomes something you need and not something that's just a simple novelty. By the way, okay, I think this is why Google will win this war over Amazon. Amazon figures, hey, we got it down pat, right? We have the whole shopping experience, and via the shopping experience, you now need, or Amazon's Alexa becomes a need, and we're good, we're done. Okay, Google, on the other hand, is forced to look beyond the shopping experience, obviously to it as well, but because of that, they're ultimately going to form a more profound sort of product, in my opinion. But you can, by the way, thank Amazon. See, if you want to understand where, I think we're very much at the infancy of voice search, and why are we so much talking about it is because of Amazon. What Amazon did was brilliant, okay? Amazon integrated shopping with voice. You can just order via Alexa, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so it automatically sort of became this need, even though voice search is not really where we think it is because of that. Because of Amazon's Alexa and because of the way it's integrated with shopping, we sort of think, okay, voice search is bigger than it really is, I think, at this point. But I don't really think that it's integrated into life yet. I think it's very much, and some of the data we've talked about on this very podcast has shown that people use it for very quick answers, very novelty sort of things, and it hasn't really become integrated into the larger life of the user. Okay, so by the way, in terms of here and now, if I were a big brand, I'd much sooner focus on audio content. I think big things are coming for audio content on the SERP with Google auto-transcribing content, as we spoke about. I think it was last week we spoke about that. Or maybe 2 weeks ago, last week, right? I have a terrible memory, but I think to go Star Trek on you for the second week in a row. The next undiscovered country,
I'm gonna fail.
is audio content. Okay, but that's just me.
You could be right.
I could be right. Enough with that. We have a great interview with Niki Mosier, now of SEER Interactive, who I spoke to all about the hidden gems Google throws your way inside of local SERP features and more. So, cut one. Welcome to Mystery Theater. No. Welcome to another In Search SEO podcast interview. There is a very, very short list of people who I think are real up and coming in the world of SEO, and Niki Mosier is definitely one of them. She is the Senior SEO Account Manager at 2 Octobers and will soon be joining the illustrious SEER Interactive team as a technical SEO manager. Welcome, Niki.
Thanks. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so that's really exciting news.
Yeah. It kind of happened quick, and I'm excited to make the jump to SEER and to experience remote working again, which is always fun.
I like remote working. I remote work often. I love it.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Yeah. Well, congrats. I hope everything goes well with that. Sad that you're moving on,
Thank
I guess.
you.
Sure. By the way, I did not forget that you're a Packers fan. I know we spoke about it before.
I actually learned last night while reading Rand Fishkin's partner Geraldine's book that Rand Fishkin is also a diehard Packer fan.
Is he really?
Yeah.
I held him in such esteem. Actually, I'm a Steelers fan, so I have nothing against the Packers, despite you all beating us in Super Bowl 45. But there's really no rivalry.
Yeah. No, there's not really.
Yeah.
It's kind of nice. We're similar teams in a lot of respect.
Right. Older quarterback, bratish quarterback, pain in the neck quarterback.
Yeah,
Right.
definitely have those things in common.
All right, so we're not here to talk about Steelers football, which I don't even want to anyway. It's been a rough offseason, and if you're not from the U.S., you're thinking, what are they talking about? Anyway, let's talk about local SEO. So there's a lot to talk about, and one of the things you mentioned was Google Posts. When we were talking about what should we talk about, we should discuss, and I love Google Posts, but I'm really guilty of the same problem that a lot of people are, is that we talk about the feature, but we don't really offer much in the way of tips, which is why I'm so happy that you're here. What can you tell us, something concrete, something business can use, something they can do, something actionable when thinking about creating Google posts?
Yeah, there's definitely a few things that are important. I think the number one thing is just consistency. As a lot of people know or maybe don't know, they go away after 7 days. They just kind of disappear from the knowledge panel. They still exist. You just have to click through a little deeper to get to them. So one thing we try to implement for clients that we're doing posting for is just to get on a consistent schedule. So every 7 days, you're putting up a new post, whether that's promoting a blog post or an event or just something going on. But something to have that consistency so that no matter when someone's looking at your listing, they're seeing that post up there. Especially now with posts being moved down in the knowledge panel. I did notice recently that on mobile, posts are showing up kind of in that scrolling menu at the top of the listing on a mobile device. So we're getting a little more visibility, but yeah, consistency is just definitely key. And then just making them promotional. So you want people to click on them. You want people to engage on them. Obviously, Google hasn't said that they're a ranking factor, but I think with anything else, like we see in search engine results with click-through rate, if people are engaging with those and clicking through to your website, that can't hurt things. So just thinking about that. Oh, dog bark. Another thing to think about with posts is think about click-through rate. So look at your AdWords copy. If you're doing AdWords ads and Google My Business posts, play around with it. Test out if you have ad copy that's really working well, play with that in your Google My Business posts and see what kind of impact you get. That's the best advice on anything SEO related is just test things out and see what happens.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point about using the ad copy. I like that. I never thought of that before. Really cool. I have seen the mobile Google post come back up, which is great. Desktop has always been lower down, hasn't it? It's always underneath.
Yeah. They were up a little further in desktop, but then they pushed them back down again.
Right. Well, I don't think people realize the impact that if you're looking at a brand, it's one of the only places on the SERP, and we'll talk about another place in a moment, where you can add your own content into a SERP feature or onto the SERP without really having to do anything. Once you're doing a brand query, you're showing up the knowledge panel, so your brand is there, your information is there, now your content can also be there, which is great for brand awareness. Even if no one clicks and goes through it, it's just a great way to show off that you're alive on the SERP.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So let me go the opposite direction with this a little bit and talk about a feature that no one talks about, and that's the Q&A feature. It's a feature where it's amazing, isn't it? No one talks about it, but it's basically, it's if you don't know what it is, it's a way you can essentially create an FAQ on the SERP for your business, and no one talks about it.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Right.
Yeah, it's something that I've been trying to utilize for clients a lot more. We actually, when we have like a multi-location SEO client, we're pushing out a Google sheet or a Google form to those clients to get them to kind of give us the top questions that they get asked on the phone, they get asked when people walk in the door, that type of thing, and then we're populating that for clients. So I think that's kind of the biggest mystery to people is they don't realize that you can actually go in as a business owner or as someone who's doing SEO for a client and actually populate those yourself, both the question and the answer.
Right.
And Google's not penalizing for that. And then voting. So they have the little thumbs up icon. You can thumbs up those yourself as well. Have your friends thumb up those, and then be strategic about it though, because the question and both the answer that have the most thumbs up, I think it's like 3, are the ones that will show up in the knowledge panel. And actually you'll still see that question and that response in the knowledge panel without having to click through to see the whole list of questions and answers that have been asked. So be strategic about that. What do you really want your customers to be able to see from that knowledge panel about your business? And then feed that yourself. Google hasn't taken that away from us yet, so take advantage of it.
I like that point about being strategic about what you thumbs up. I did not know that, by the way. Besides for answering the top questions, have you, when you approach a client about putting in content into the Q&A feature, so obviously you have your basic questions that people always ask, but is there anything else that you try to ensure goes into that Q&A content, that Q&A feature, or basically just the top questions that you always hear as a business owner?
I think there's definitely some value in trying to match it up with what is on a Q&A page on your website. Q&A pages are tricky. I've been trying to figure out the nuances of implementing Q&A schema, and it's a mess. Like, you have to have separate question and answer pages for each question and answer, and then you have to be able to have user-generated questions to even be able to put schema on those pages. So they definitely make that challenging. It's not as easy as something like review schema or local business schema. But I think trying to have that consistency between the website and the Google My Business listing whenever possible is definitely beneficial.
Oh, that's a good point. I mean, it's interesting. I know there's a Q&A feature that exists. I know they announced it. I've never actually seen it pop up in the wild, which is weird.
Yeah, I haven't either.
I know the forums one shows up all the time, but it is weird. Interesting. I don't know.
Yeah, and there's one last thought is thinking about the Q&A field can be such a great lead generation source. If someone's asking if your business offers X service, chances are they actually want to come in and get that service. So keeping an eye on those things. I know GatherUp's review generation platform, one of their packages actually includes Q&A monitoring. So you can sign into the platform, be notified when someone asks a question, and keep an eye on it that way as well, GatherUp. They used to be at 5 stars.
Interesting. Let me jump onto something that I see a lot of businesses doing, and that's departments. I was looking at preparing for this podcast. I was looking at an old Home Depot I used to frequent a lot in Baltimore when I used to live there. And when you go to see the knowledge of the local panel for the Home Depot, there's literally a dozen different categories, different departments that they list in the knowledge panel. And if you click on one, you go to a new SERP for that department, and if they're doing things right, you get a knowledge panel for that particular department. Is there really anything to listing dozens and upon dozens of departments in the knowledge panel? Is it something that if you have time for, great, do it, if not, or is there really something you think beneficial to doing it?
I mean, I think in a situation like Home Depot, Lowe's, something like that, where they have a ton of locations, they've got a ton going on in their store, I don't think it hurts to have that information in the knowledge panel, especially if you're looking for something, you want to call the flooring department directly and you don't want to have to sit through that prompt, all those prompts on the phone. You can just click directly, in theory, if they have the right phone number set up, and call directly to the flooring department, find out information about that department. So, I mean, I'm kind of under the thought process that if Google has that feature, take advantage of it if it works for your business, if it makes sense. Obviously, don't create fake departments for your business and that kind of thing just to populate that area. But yeah, if it makes sense for your business, definitely take advantage of that.
Right. Yeah, that'd be interesting if you had fake business categories or business departments in your business. I don't know how that would work out for you in the end. But
yeah,
people try anything.
I'm sure it wouldn't be a lot of benefit.
I'm sure
but
there's somebody out there doing
use
it.
That.
Yep. Let me ask you. So, can you? I know there's so many. The thing about local SERP features is that there aren't so many of them. You have your local panel, you have the local pack, you have the local finder. Yeah, you have Discover More Places, carousel, those sort of things. But within each of these features, there's just so many different elements, particularly in the knowledge panel, the local panel. One of the things I see, for example, that people overlook, and I know Macy's does a great job with this, and a bunch of other department stores do a great job with this, is events. You can actually list events and have them show up in the knowledge panel. For example, if Macy's has someone coming in to do a makeup demonstration, they have that as an event. On October 23rd, there's going to be a makeup demonstration. If there's a cologne sampling, right? That's listed as an event, and that's really, really interesting. And you can obviously attract a lot of people into what your business is doing with that sort of thing, and people just aren't using it. They're not doing it. Besides that or something else, what are some things that, because there's just so many different elements within the local features, are businesses just missing the boat on? Obviously, we talked about the Q&A feature and beyond that.
Yep. Yeah, no, I think you definitely nailed it with events. I think a lot of people aren't taking advantage of that. It's definitely tricky. I've had some struggles, and I know some other people have had the same issue on Twitter, of getting events to populate with event schema, just because there's so many nuances to it. I'm definitely finding that things like Eventbrite and Meetup are pulling into the listing pretty automatically, which is nice. And then Google, there was just a post on Search Engine Land on Monday morning that now anyone can add events to the Google My Business listing from the contributor dashboard. It looks like it's pretty Android specific only, but at the moment, but that's a little scary actually, that kind of like the Q&A feature, that it can be user generated. So it'll be definitely interesting to see kind of what happens with that feature. And then I think videos are definitely underused in the Google My Business listing. We know that Google loves video. Google wants to see video, especially video from YouTube, showing up in the search results. So getting video on your Google My Business listing is a great way to give users a full idea of what they are going to experience when they walk in your door. And it makes Google happy. So it's kind of a win-win there. And then the products and services menu. I feel like that's pretty underused, especially when you look at, I think obviously things like Home Depot and REI do a really great job of adding in their product feed, which I think can come in like through the API and stuff and pull in those products to the Google My Business listing on mobile. But looking at like home services businesses and things like that, I think there's really an opportunity there to kind of get more of that information out in front of users. Obviously, restaurants do a pretty great job of having their menu in the listing, but as far as service menus and that kind of thing, I think there's definitely an opportunity to utilize that feature more fully.
Yeah, that is really interesting because there has been a push as of late. There's always been a push, but there's been more as of late to get your products out there onto the SERP, into the local SERP features. And it is a bit surprising that people don't take advantage of that, business don't take advantage of that, and from anything from product placement to events, that sort of thing. And do you think that's because people just don't know, which is weird because people are doing SEO for these sites, or is it's just tricky?
Yeah, I think one thing is people just don't spend enough time in the SERPs, and I'm definitely guilty of that, both with clients that I work on and just in general. Like you get so kind of in the zone of what you're working on, whether that's the back end or your coding or whatever you're doing, and just not maybe realizing that you have control over some of these features. So just spending time in the SERPs is important from all aspects of the game.
That is interesting because, Google is creating these features for a reason. Like, for example, the reason I'm speculating, but I think it's good speculation. The reason why there's so much product offerings or so many ways you can push your product in the local features is because it's a great opportunity for Google to build that association that it, as opposed to maybe Amazon, I don't know, is a place where you can learn about product, where you can find products, buy products. It's a segue into product. You would figure they would want to make sure everybody knows about that, but it doesn't seem like that's the case.
Yeah, they definitely seem to be contradicting themselves a little bit there.
And maybe Gary or John needs to spread the word more about local.
Yeah, maybe.
They need a local
give
Googler.
Us a little leg up. Yeah,
there's no local Googler, right? I don't
think
so.
That's a very good point.
We'll get Barry Schwartz on that. Okay. Let's talk about tracking progress in these areas. Obviously, judging the impact of how well you're doing within the Q&A element is pretty hard to do. I don't ever know how you would do something like that unless you get really creative with it. All right, but that said, there are things you can monitor. There are ways you can monitor your progress, so you can either replicate things or you can adjust things. Now, of course, you can no longer use UTM codes to track Google My Business data within Search Console. So maybe you can explain for our audience what happened there. For those who don't know what happened, maybe offer some tips to what you can do instead or now.
Yeah, so I think it was in early February, Google announced that they were going to be changing how the Search Console performance report counts metrics. Instead of looking at the exact URL, they're going to be transitioning to using the canonical URL when we're looking at those metrics in Search Console, which is definitely a challenge if we're putting UTM codes on specific URLs. It's obviously going to go to the canonical version. One way to get around this is to track those UTM codes in Google Analytics instead of Search Console, looking at the campaign data and that sort of thing, which I know there's some back and forth on which is more accurate, Search Console versus Analytics. And I know it can be tricky, but that's definitely one way to still have access to that data. I definitely think it's a little more accurate than Google's Google My Business Insights. I always struggle with whether their phone call numbers and their clicks to website and stuff are actually as accurate as we want them to be. So that's definitely one way. And then I think and obviously the post metrics. So if you're doing the Google My Business post, keeping an eye on those metrics as well. I do the same thing as the website URL. I'm putting UTM codes and campaign codes on all Google My Business posts and tracking those metrics in Google Analytics to be able to get those insights as well.
Right, that's really smart. And people forget, by the way, with the UTM codes that you can still track the data in Google Analytics. It's just Search Console you can't do it.
Yep, exactly.
I wanted to ask you earlier and I forgot. I have a terrible memory. I literally have a terrible memory. It's really bad sometimes. Anyway, with Google Posts, so there's this story format that you have to. I've seen the NHL has it. New York City, ironically, I've done this. I've searched for city after city, and New York City is, I believe, the only city I've ever found that has Google Posts, and they've used this story format. It's almost like an AMP story, but within Google Posts. I don't think you have to have special access to that, correct?
I haven't seen that outside of New York City either. I'm assuming it's some sort of special localized feature that.
Right, for publishers or something like that, right?
Yeah, I know they're getting more. There's more options for that type of content because that's obviously content that Google likes to see. So I think they're just starting to kind of roll that out on a case-by-case basis.
I would imagine that it's going to why wouldn't it come out full force? It's such an engaging way. It's an AMP story. If you're not familiar with an AMP story, it's one of those stories that they announced at the Google 20th anniversary. That if you Google Joe Montana in the knowledge panel, you'll see a button that says see history of his life, something like that. And it's this whole amazing story format that you have sometimes in Google Posts for certain publishers. It's just weird that these things this is going back. The last Stanley Cup Finals, it's hockey, was about a year ago? Well, not a year ago, a little less than a year ago, right? And the NHL had it, New York City, I said, has it, and I haven't seen anyone beyond that really show off with that feature. Why do you think Google rolls out these really awesome features? They're really cool, they're really engaging, they're really amazing, and it tests them, it prods with them. Some people have access to them, some people don't have access to them, and it just kind of falls flat in its face because there's no full rollout, at least not right away.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it has something to do with I'm assuming because we haven't seen Google Posts monetized yet. They're still free, unlike Google Ads.
Is that happening
now?
Do you think?
The same thing. So, yeah, that's what I wonder. We haven't seen anything monetized in the Google My Business listing yet. So I'm wondering if that has something to do. Obviously, we're seeing it with the NHL and that sort of thing. So obviously they've got money. I'm assuming they're spending a lot of money on Google Ads, that sort of thing. So, I wouldn't put it past Google for there to be some sort of connection there.
Ooh, that's conspiratorial. Nice. With Google Posts, let me ask. I know it's impossible to answer, and it is interesting they haven't monetized it yet. Why do you think they rolled them out? I know people theorize that, Google wanted to enter a new way to enter the social media universe because Google Plus always sucked and now it's totally defunct. Do you think it's just to get social media foothold or it goes beyond that?
They kind of did it around the same time that they announced Google My Business Posts, and then 3 to 6 months later they got rid of the G Plus listings. So those were kind of similar products. So I think maybe it was a little bit connected to that. And I think it's just another way, giving businesses that opportunity to promote themselves more. It's one more way to say, hey, this business is doing this. They're going to get better search visibility because they're taking advantage of this service feature versus a business that's not. And I think like I mentioned, that maybe there's some opportunity there for Google to monetize that in the future.
There's always room
paying
for
for more. Right. Well, yeah, if you pay for this post, then just like boosted Facebook ads, that post is going to show up further up in the knowledge panel listing or something like that. So yeah, I assume there's some sort of grand plan there.
Oh, there's always a grand plan. It does keep you off the site theoretically because all the content's right there. When you click on it, it's still within the Google Post universe.
Yep.
Which I always find bizarre. But yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, that whole thing that's been talked about in the local community lately, with Google trying to make that first page result in the Google My Business listing take the place of a website and not have to actually go to the website to get the information that they're looking for.
That is interesting. Why? Okay, so I understand why Google at times wants to put something like a feature snippet or direct answer or a local pack, whatever it is, even a local panel. I get it. But why does Google, when it doesn't seem to need to, want to keep a user off a site? I have my theories about it, but I'm just curious what you think off the cuff on one foot.
I think, I guess if I was Google, if I could keep someone in the search results, they're maybe gonna find a little bit of what they're looking for in the search result, and then maybe go to another search result. So the more search results they see, the more that helps Google. whatever their thought is there.
Right. It definitely creates a certain, like, Google is the authority in all things, and let's go back to Google, and it builds that association of Google as a source of information, content, and immediate gratification. Interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
So now that you've graced us with all of your insights and you've taken time out of your busy day to come and join us on the In Search SEO podcast, I have to do this bit that I do with everybody. I call it optimize it or disavow it. I'm going to give you two options. Two either really good options or two terrible options, and you have to choose one of the two. In one case, you're picking one option that's really great and discarding another great option. In another case, you have to be, choosing a terrible option that you would never choose. Will you agree to play optimize it or disavow it?
I will.
Oh, you're so brave. Okay. This is the Niki Mosier version of optimize it or disavow it. So, if you could choose one, and again, it's a zero-sum game, would you create Google posts, which we've discussed here at such length, or would you go with the Q&A feature? You can't do both. You can only do one. The Q&A feature or Google Posts?
Tough question. I think I'd definitely stick with the Google Posts. I think they've got a lot of value in the different options there are. You've got the event posts, you've got the product posts, send people to your blog posts, whatever you've got going on. So I think they definitely both have a lot of value, but I think there's a little more value currently with the Google Posts, just to see all of the different options there are and the ways that people can interact with those.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely more visual, definitely more striking, definitely more interactive and engaging. So I guess better chance a user will look at them than versus a Q&A answer.
Yeah, or at least interact with them. Q&A, they might read that and find a couple of things, but if you've got products listed or you've got promotions listed in those Google Posts, to be able to click on that, get a coupon code, or buy a product or something like that, I think that definitely holds a little bit more weight.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Well, thanks. Appreciate that. Again, Niki Mosier on the In Search SEO podcast. Thank you so much for coming on the show, and best of luck at your new position over at SEER.
Thanks. I'm excited to see how things go, and I'll definitely keep you posted.
You better. Okay. Thanks again for coming on.
Thank you. Have a great day.
And we are back to your regularly scheduled In Search SEO podcast. So let's jump right into the In Search SEO tip share of the week based off what Niki talked about. Kim, take it away, please.
Sure.
Thank you.
What should you consider before creating a Google post or adding to your own questions and answers in the knowledge panel?
Based on what we just heard from Niki, what do you think is important to consider before drafting content, meaning either in Google Posts or in the Q&A feature, or if you could figure out some other way to do it, go ahead, but there is no other way. What should you consider before drafting content for Google's local SERP features? By the way, last week we asked you to share how you deal with LinkedIn link buying spam, which is fun. By the way, I like to get once in a while, I like to get a little creative with it. Good word. I was trying to think of a nice word. Creative with it. Some interesting ideas were floated around out there. Let's quote Itamar Blauer on Twitter. It's at Itamar, ITAMAR BLAUER. And he said, "I only respond with the auto-suggested replies. No typing allowed," which is actually pretty funny, right?
It can take you pretty far sometimes, though.
Yeah, but because they won't stop. They'll just keep going and go, and you get to this absurd conversation with people trying to sell you links on LinkedIn, even though they have no idea that you're just replying through auto-suggest. So that's pretty, Itamar, that's a great idea. I like that. That's pretty funny. All right. Very good. News time. My time to close my mouth.
Wow.
Yeah. That's a scary proposition. You don't believe me?
We'll see.
You'll see. It's time for me to close my mouth and let Kim hit it with the news.
The bug that caused a substantial number of pages to be de-indexed has been mostly resolved, according to Google.
Yeah, so even after Google made this announcement, there were still people saying on Twitter that, it hasn't been exactly fixed, but by this time, I'm pretty sure everything's been re-indexed. Dr. P from Moz put out a piece saying I think 4% of all sites pages were impacted.
Hmm.
Yeah.
The new Google Assistant design also includes ads. These are not voice ads, rather, of course. They're Google search ads.
Right. So when you do a search and goes in your Google Assistant and you see all their visual content, you now have ads there also, which not sure why that took so long, but there they are. Great.
Google tested a more icon-oriented Google My Business dashboard. The test was not widespread, but keep your eyes open for it.
Which is interesting, by the way, because it comes right after and it mimics the test we saw on the SERP. I think it was about 2 weeks ago where you had more icons on the SERP. And the same sort of icons on the SERP we're now using this new Google My Business dashboard. So that's interesting.
As reported by SC Roundtable that was found by Morty,
Woohoo.
Google has added audience reviews for music. Previously, the element showed for TV and movie content only.
This is what happens when you get to search for lots of Netflix stuff.
Mm.
And you find stuff like this. And when you have no life and you just do search after search. No, but I do a disproportionate amount of searching.
Instead of sleeping?
Instead of sleeping. Because my job requires it. So I get to find all sorts of cool stuff.
Good.
That's me. That's the highlight of my week. I found something. Here, look, I found this on Google. It's great. Good.
Big news for AMP.
Big. See, I could have kept my mouth shut. Sorry.
The AMP project announced that it will soon support JavaScript.
Ooh.
Fancy?
Ooh, trying to go on the rebound here, AMP, huh? By something maybe you could have done like a couple of years ago. That's just my opinion. Whatever. That is not the official opinion of anybody here at Rank Ranger. That's just Morty complaining about whatever. Anyway, thank you for the news, Kim.
My pleasure.
Very informative.
Thank you.
Sorry for interrupting you.
That you're not.
I'm not sorry at all.
I know that.
It's that time again. You know it. You love it.
Yes.
It's time for the fun SEO send-off question. Okay, I have a really good one today.
Shoot.
I'm breaking the fourth wall with this one. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, here we go. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm
sure?
waiting.
No,
Go ahead.
I'm building the suspense. Don't ruin it,
okay.
please.
I thought you forgot.
No. Didn't forget. I'm being suspenseful.
Okay.
Okay. Awkward silence. Okay, done. Okay.
Go.
If Google were a person, what would it search for on its Google Home or Google Hub device? Ooh. That's so circular. My brain just went splat inside of my head.
There's a lot of options.
Ooh. Okay.
Should I go first?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so I think Google would ask, what am I doing today? Very basic. Because I think Google will already be accustomed to not remembering anything on his own.
Oh,
just
that's interesting.
Depending on
The answer
the
it gets.
agenda on there. Yes.
Oh, that's good.
Yes.
Do you remember anybody's cell phone number? You remember back in the day before cell phones? I know I'm dating some of you out there.
I remember my friends from first grade.
Right.
Their phone numbers.
You
But
really?
now- yeah.
You still remember them?
Yeah.
Wow.
But now I only know
I'm
my
not going to tell you how
cell
old
phone
Kim is,
number.
by the way, and how impressive that actually is. That's terrible. I'm such a jerk.
Now the cell phone numbers I know, it's really just mine and my husband's.
Yeah, I know mine.
And I'm not going to learn anymore.
I
There's
don't know my
no way.
father's. I don't know my sister's. I know my old home number.
I don't know my home number now.
I don't know my home number now either. I never use my home number.
I do sometimes when I call the kids.
Or at least that's what we have right for the kids. When,
Yeah.
if there's a babysitter, maybe the babysitter doesn't have a cell phone, so we can
Right.
call. Right. And
That's
find
the
out that they're
only time.
watching things they're not supposed to be watching.
Is the house on fire?
Right.
Stuff like that.
Stuff like that. Okay. I'm going to go with, how do I rank on Google? If Google were a person and if you were doing voice searches, it would say, how do I rank on Google? Come on, and it would be like, how do I rank on Google in one day? How do I get to the top of the SERP in one day? How do I manipulate Google's rankings? All these questions Google would be asking. Come on, that answer is true.
Yes.
You like that answer, please? Yeah, good.
It's
Okay.
creative.
Thank you.
Sure thing. We
That
did
was
it.
good. We did it.
Yes.
We've reached the end of the show. As you have reached the end of the show, kudos to you. Kudos to you. By the way, just a reminder, we are not back again next week. We are back the week after next week.
But people can listen to this episode again.
You can go back and listen to all our old episodes, all other 20. I never remember how many we do. This is 23.
This is 23.
So,
yeah.
yes, you can listen to all the other 22 episodes of the In Search SEO podcast, just in case you're looking for, hard dates instead of like next week and the week after. Let me look up on my phone because I don't remember. I'm terrible with time. I'm terrible with memory. I'm terrible with dates. Yeah. Okay.
That's it.
So the week of April 23rd, which would be our normal release date, there will be no podcast. But we will be back on April 30th, full of energy, insights, and borderline insanity.
Great.
Yes, great. Will you be here?
We'll see.
We'll see. Non-committal. All right. Thank you again very much. This has been another episode of the In Search SEO podcast. Tune in again on April 30th for a new episode. It's In Search because we're all in search of something.